have a stellar lineup for you this morning. And so I have the pleasure of introducing to you someone who I've known for ever since I started at Jamberry, just like so many of you in this room. And I call her a friend as well as a coworker. And I am so thrilled to announce to you and share with you, talking about the power of one, the director from Pennsylvania, Miss Tara Webb.
Meet this little girl. She was 8 and struggled in school. She had a particularly hard time with math and reading. After months and months of poor grades, getting yelled at to pay attention, and being accused of not trying, she had just about given up. She didn't know why when she read, she couldn't remember anything. She didn't understand why when she took a standardized test that her Scantron came back almost all wrong. She didn't understand why when she was in math class, her teacher would keep yelling at her. She was just sitting at her desk doing her work, wasn't she? And then something happened. She was playing softball with her dad on the side of the house, and he pitched her the ball, and she just stood there. She froze. He thought that was kind of weird because she swung at everything. So he pitched her another one, and she didn't even flinch. She just stared. He called her name. She didn't respond. At this point, he knew something was very wrong, so he ran up to her and he started shaking her, calling her name, and just like that, she startled. And she said, Dad, what are you doing? And he told her about how he pitched to her, she didn't move. He told her how he had called to her, she didn't respond. She had no idea what he was talking about. And again, she was left thinking, why am I getting yelled at again? What is going on? After months and months of doctor's visits, being poked and prodded, lots of testing, it turns out that the little girl had epilepsy. Anything with multiple lines was inducing petit mal seizures. So all those times that she wasn't paying attention, she was actually in a seizure. All those times that she was trying to read and couldn't remember, it's because as she went to the next line, it would induce a seizure. All those Scantron tests that came back wrong, as she filled in the bubbles, it was inducing a seizure and she was losing her place. All those times in math class she got yelled at, it's because as she was lining up the numbers, it would throw her into a seizure where it was kind of like a spell. She would stare off into space, have no idea what's going on, didn't know it, was conscious, but not there. So the doctors talked to her and her parents, and the prognosis wasn't great. He said over time, she would, her petit mal seizures would turn into grand mal seizures, which they did, that she would have a very hard time in math class, that she would have severe challenges in reading, and she would never be coordinated enough to do any kind of sporting activity. The little girl didn't understand what was going on, but she understood enough by her parents' tears that this was not good. She saw her parents cry, and cry a lot that night. And after she went to bed, she heard her parents talking. They were arguing in the kitchen. She heard her dad say, "But Donna, what are we gonna do? She's never gonna be able to do anything." And then she heard her mom say, "John, stop it. We will figure this out. We will teach her." And teach her they did. The situation was overwhelming. The girl couldn't do anything right. And even worse, she couldn't control it. Or could she? The mom taught her to break things down into the littlest possible pieces that she could. And if she just focused on one thing at a time, there would be nothing that girl couldn't do. But how the heck could this girl even read when every 30 seconds she's being thrown into a seizure? So the mom said, just take it one line at a time. Don't look at the rest of the page, just look at one single line. So the girl started crying and saying, I don't know how to do that. I can't do it. So the mom got up, she got a piece of cardboard, she painted it black, she got an X-Acto knife and cut out one single line. She slapped it on the girl's book and she said, stop feeling sorry for yourself. You can do this, read. And so read she did. The little girl taught herself how to take one line at a time. She couldn't look at anything else, she had to look at that one line. Over time, she did not need that piece of cardboard anymore. In fact, she grew up to be an avid reader, reading over 52 books a year. The little girl who couldn't do math graduated high school 13th in her class. The little girl who would never be able to do any sport went on to be a Division I college athlete. That little girl grew up to build a $4 million business. That little girl is me. I had to learn how to improvise, adapt, and overcome at a very early age. I was taught to not let seizures define me or epilepsy carve out my future. But more than that, I was forced to learn how to take things one step at a time, one line at a time, one day at a time, one seizure at a time. If I broke things down into one little tiny piece, there would be nothing that I couldn't do. The impossible was no longer impossible to me. The impossible became a dare. With the power of one, I changed my life. The power of one is the theory that one person can change the future, that one person can change the lives of many. The power of one is all around us. You just have to look for it. It was about 20 years later when I would have to implement the power of one again in a significant way. I was 20 weeks pregnant with my 4th child when my water broke. I was rushed to the hospital and told that there was nothing that they could do for me. They would be giving me my antibiotics. After my antibiotics, I would be discharged. I had to go home, and when contractions started, I was told that I should call the hospital, come back to deliver my angel baby. Before I was handed my discharge papers, the nurse leans in and whispers in my ear, and she goes, sometimes the hole can seal back up. Sometimes the baby lives. Go home, go on strict bed rest, and don't move a muscle. She backed up, handed me my discharge papers like she's done a million times before, said good luck, and I went home. I couldn't stop thinking about what she had said, and I decided to call my perinatologist. I wanted to know if what that nurse had told me could actually be true. Could a baby survive to viability long after the water breaks? So I called him, and he said to me, well, yeah, sometimes in some small instances the baby can survive, sure. So I was feeling hopeful. I'm a goal-oriented person, so I'm like, okay, doc, what's our first goal? I'm thinking in my head he's gonna tell me 36 weeks, which is terrifying enough when a baby is supposed to be 40 weeks. And he responds with, tomorrow, Tara. Let's make it to tomorrow morning. I was a little shocked, and I said, tomorrow? I mean, really? He was like, Tara, let's focus on just one. Sure enough, here I was, learning the power of one all over again. He said to take it 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day at a time. Just make it to tomorrow morning and then repeat. So that's what we did. I printed out a calendar. I crossed off each day as it passed. The minutes, the hours, and the days turned into 7 long weeks before contractions started. Johnny was born weighing 1 pound, 11 ounces. He spent 11 months in the hospital before ever coming home to us. How is that for the power of one repeating itself? Now imagine if that one nurse never said anything to me. What if she never whispered in my ear? I had already been told there was nothing that they could do for me. My baby was dead. And she whispered in my ear and changed my baby's life and my life. Did those whispers change her life? Probably not, but it changed mine with the power of one. When Johnny finally came home at 11 months, he was tied to all sorts of wires. He had 2 machines assisting him to breathe. He could barely eat because his respiratory needs were so severe. That first night, my husband and I cried, and he looked at me and he said, "Tara, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this?" And I looked up at him and I said, 1 beep, 1 alarm, 1 sickness, 1 day at a time. My husband said to me, how, babe? I don't know how to do this. Like this, I can't. And I said, honey, we're gonna take this 1 day at a time, and we're gonna teach Johnny the power of one. The power of my mom's lesson, the power of focusing on one thing at a time. Here Johnny is today, 6 years old, going to kindergarten, not needing any medication. Now tell me that 1 pound didn't matter. Tell me that 1 nurse didn't make a difference. There's a famous story about a man and a starfish. There were tons of starfish that washed up on shore after a terrible storm. And there was this man watching this other man who was picking up starfish after starfish and placing it back in the ocean. The guy thought to himself, man, what is this guy doing? He's crazy. Like, there's no way he's gonna get to all those starfish. So he walked up to the other man and he said, there's gotta be thousands out there. There's no way you're gonna be able to save them all. You're not gonna make a difference. So the man with the starfish stopped and he looked at him and he said, well, it made a difference to the one I just threw back, didn't it? And just like that, the man stopped, picked up the starfish, and put it back in the ocean too. You see, just like the 8-year-old Tara, or the Johnny story, the starfish story teaches us that it takes just one to make a difference. One person gets something started. A second person creates a vision. And a third brings the hype and the momentum. And before you know it, you've created an impact. The power of one is all around us. Look at the effect that one person has had on society. People like Rosa Parks, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs once said that the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. Imagine this world without his innovations and his visions. Mother Teresa said, if you cannot feed 100 people, feed just one. Feed one, and you have changed a life. Feed one, and you can create momentum. Feed one, and you've changed the narrative. The notion that I can't make a difference, I'm just one person, or that the cards are stacked against me, this is a waste of time. Tell that to the person who just received an organ from one person who blessed them with it. Tell that to the family who adopted a baby because one person blessed them with it. Think about it. The power of one is all around us. One atom is the building block of life. How do we learn to walk? 1 step at a time. How do we learn to read? 1 letter, 1 word at a time. Why don't we implement this notion as we get older? Has this year been tough? Absolutely. Has this year been overwhelming? 100%. But the man who moves mountains begins by carrying small stones. He carries 1 at a time. He doesn't move the entire mountain at one time. He starts with 1, he focuses on 1. Have we made mistakes this year? Yeah, we sure have. But we will succeed because we fail. Fun fact about Michael Jordan. He said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted with the game-winning shot and missed. I have failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I've succeeded. Do we focus on those 9,000 shots? Do we think about those 26 times he choked? Hell no, he's one of the best athletes in the world. There is no such thing as impossible with the power of one. Focus on 1 task at a time, 1 problem at a time, 1 solution at a time, 1 party, 1 customer, 1 task at a time. Impossible is not a declaration, it is potential. Impossible is nothing with the power of one. John Maxwell once said that leadership is the power of one, harnessing the power of many. You can't always control your circumstances or the cards that you were dealt, but you can always control your response and your reaction to it. You can either complain about the situation, or you can try and make the situation better, and inevitably, it can get better with the power of one. The power of one is all around us. It's within you, it's within us. Hell, it's how we got started. Because of one person's vision. One person who never gave up on us, who fought for us. And one person who believed in our potential. And together, they created a future. One person, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day at a time will change your life. You don't have to solve all the problems. You just have to solve the one right in front of you, and then move on to the next. One problem, one issue, one solution at a time. Eventually, all those ones turn into many. All those stones turn into a mountain. All those starfish were returned to the sea. All those weeks turned into a 1-pound miracle. And all those lines turned into a $4 million business. One line, 1 minute, one solution at a time. Thank you.